The St. Louis Cardinals show off one of their team skills that could be a point of emphasis if they plan on shocking their doubters in 2026. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis and a lifetime Cardinals fan. Welcome into another episode of Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to our everydayers for always being here with us. Thank you to the newcomers for hopping on board. Appreciate you. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all the info about the birds on the bat. On today's show, who was picked as a dark horse candidate to make the Cardinals opening day roster? Plus, we've got a preview of Tuesday's contest against the Washington Nationals. But we're going to start today talking about the results from Monday's action and what was a windy Jupiter, Florida, where the Cardinals got some late inning wind-aided magic to score 3 in the bottom of the ninth. They win it on a wild pitch and walk it off with a 5-4 win over the Miami Marlins. Much like the first game of spring training, the offense struggled to get really anything going. They managed just 5 hits on the day. Only 2 of those came from the guys that were in the starting lineup, guys you would expect to have a place on the roster. But one thing they did do when the major league guys were still in the game was utilize the running game. Now, the Cardinals were able to steal not 1, not 2, but 3 bases on the day. You got 1 from JJ Wetherholt, 1 from José Fermín, and 1 from Joshua Baez. They did have 1 caught stealing, which went down in the 7th inning when Jeremy Rivas tried to take second after a pitch went into the dirt. So it wasn't really a straight steal where he got caught stealing, but still goes down as a caught stealing. But honestly, props on the play. I like the aggressiveness on trying to take that extra bag while you're down by 1 at that point of the game, trying to get into scoring position with 2 outs. And it took a great block and throw by the Marlins catcher to get him out at second base. So really no shame in that for me. I like the aggressiveness, and, sometimes they're going to catch you. And that's what happened here. And this is something that I actually have brought up during this offseason every day, as you guys will back me up on this, that the Cardinals are going to have to get a whole lot better at creating offense in 2026 and manufacturing runs if they plan on hanging with teams offensively in this upcoming season, because they just don't have the bats in their lineup, at least on paper, that say, hey, they're going to put up a lot of runs. The Cardinals finished 29th in home runs last year, ahead of only the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they aren't expected to hit many more than the 148 that they got last season. They just don't have guys that I would call sluggers on the roster. Now, could people pop off and come out of nowhere and do something for us? Sure, I guess. But the man who led the team with 20 home runs last year is now playing first base for the Red Sox. That's Wilson Contreras. Nolan Arenado and Brendan Donovan were 6th and 8th in home runs on the team last year with 12 and 10. Should guys like Ivan Herrera, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, should they hit more than they did last year? Absolutely. I would expect them to. Herrera popped 19. Gorman had 14, which we think is pretty low for him and his power capabilities. And then Walker only had 6. So all 3 of these guys could hit 20 plus, but that's not something you can really control. These guys have to figure out their swings. Not so much Herrera, but he is coming off of elbow surgery, so you wonder how that might affect him. But the other 2 guys, we've seen them do very well at the major league level, and then we've seen them struggle the last couple years. I don't know if they can get it back. We're hoping they can. The Cardinals sure hope they can. They're putting in the work. They're trying. But instead of relying on those guys coming back to becoming 25, 30 home run type of dudes, the Cardinals will need to improve other things, more specifically the running game instead, which is something that you do have more control over. Last year, they had just 89 combined steals, with Victor Scott responsible for 34 of them. In my opinion, they did not run enough. The Cardinals will have more athleticism on this team in 2026. We know Newt's recovering from surgery. When he comes back, I don't know how much running he's going to be doing. It's not like he does a ton of it anyway. But the guy that could be replacing him in left field is Nathan Church. he's got fantastic wheels. Definitely an upgrade there, athletic-wise. We know Victor Scott can fly in center field. Jordan Walker was second on the team last year with 10 steals. And despite that massive 6'6" frame, he was in the 84th percentile in sprint speed. The dude can move. He may not look like it, but that dude can move. All right. Mason Wynn, 77th percentile in sprint speed last year, despite the bad wheel that he played with for most of the season. Now has a healthy knee. Should be able to run more. I think he should run more. JJ Wetherholt, who swiped the bag today, stole 23 last year on 26 attempts, stole 36 bags in 55 games in his breakout sophomore season at West Virginia. We know he can run. Alec Burleson. Okay. All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Burley is not going to run a whole lot more, so we'll move on from him. But Ivan Herrera, not fast by any means, but he ended up managing to steal 8 bags last year despite leg injuries that he was dealing with. You're going to have more playing time this year, you would think, for guys like Thomas Ajayci, José Fermín, who stole 1 on Monday. This should lead to more stolen bases for this team overall. Joshua Baez, who was there today, stole third base in Monday's game. Pitcher wasn't paying attention to him. He was on second base, took a walking lead, and was like, okay. And he just took off, read the pitcher perfectly. It was beautiful. We don't know when he's going to impact the Major League roster. May not be until 2027. We don't know. But we know he's got the skills to steal bases, and he stole 54 of them last season. So if they can commit to being an aggressive base running team, perhaps they'll be able to take advantage of all these athletes that they now have populating the roster in 2026. You got to be a good base runner. And I know people really get on the Cardinals for bad base running. It's happened more times than not recently in the last couple of years. So we hope they improve on that. I'm right there with you. But the real key to unlocking this aspect of the game for the Cardinals is get on base more. That's the real trick. Can't steal first base. And even though there wasn't a ton of offense in this game on Monday, it was refreshing to see them push the envelope a little bit, push that Marlins defense with their legs, and it led to them tying up the game in the 4th inning when they did some running. So that's going to bring us to our 3 stars from Monday's game, which I will unveil for you coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting there wide open. Not a great place to be. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. You're looking for a certain set of skills, experience, a location. So you're not just hoping that right candidate's going to just magically stumble across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, why not do the smart thing? Spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So go visit Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show, Locked On Cardinals, by saying that you heard about Indeed on this particular podcast. Locked On Cardinals. Say it with me. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Now the baseball's back. You can lock in by joining the Everydayer Club, brand new thing that we're launching, which gets you ad-free episodes and gives you access to our group chat on Discord, which is a place where all of us baseball nerds can get together and talk ball, whether it's Cardinals or anything else going on with Major League Baseball. And for the next week or so, you can use the code SPRING, SPRING, for a free month. Go to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com or tap that link in the show notes for more information. So the first 2 games of spring training for the Cardinals, I've gone with, when we talk about the 3 stars of the game, I've gone with the starting pitchers as my #1 stars, but not today. Not happening today. Instead, we're going to go with a guy who at this very moment doesn't even have a position to call his own, but he's definitely earning a spot on the roster. And that is utility man José Fermín, who once again got the start in left field for the Redbirds. Second time this season, spring season, I should say. I don't make it sound like I'm talking about the regular season, but second time this spring that he's gotten that start. And after going 1 for 2 with a double in Saturday's game, came up in the first inning, 2-1, 1 out. Marlins young stud Yuri Perez was on the bump, so no easy task on Monday. The dude is got just filthy stuff. Was having a tough time throwing strikes there early on. Mason Wynn lined out to start the inning, but then Burley and JJ walked to set up Gorman, who promptly struck out, which left it up to José Fermín, okay, who comes through, smokes a 2-1 fastball into left field to score Burley from second. JJ ends up getting caught in a rundown between second and third to end the threat. Was that bad base running? Probably, since the play was right in front of him. Or if we want to look on the positive side, say, hey, one of those situations where you were just trying to make sure the run scored because that's Alec Burleson running and he's not elite speed. And you're able to get the attention of the fielder so that Burley can cross safely. You could look at it that way. I'm going to lean towards bad base running on this one, but either way, the run scored. That's what was important. So the game gets tied up. Then in the fourth inning, JJ led off with another walk, and after Gorman popped out the third, JJ stole second, and Fermine was able to put the ball in play. He reaches on an errant throw from the shortstop. Then during the next at-bat, Fermine steals second base. Throw goes high into center field, which allows Weatherholt to score to tie the game up at 2. He would get to third on a wild pitch, but both Nathan Church and then Jimmy Crooks struck out, and he got stranded at third base. But the running game isn't anything new with José Fermín. And maybe you haven't been following him and his career path so far, but 28 stolen bases back in 2019 in A-ball, 2024 at Memphis, and combined with a little bit of time with the Cardinals, stole 20 more. Last year at Memphis and St. Louis, he stole 22 combined. This offseason, we've been discussing all of these different names that fit what the Cardinals might need as far as a right-handed hitting outfielder. And so far, for me, 2 games, I get it. He's answered the bell in spring training. There hasn't been a lot to complain. I haven't seen him make any mistakes in left field. If I have, if he has, and I didn't notice it, let me know in the comments section. But I feel like so far so good. José Fermín making a name for himself and making it so that he's one of these guys that whether he's starting in left field or not, if Newt's out, is still going to be on this roster because of the versatility that he provides. My number 2 star of the game is going to go to the Cardinals starter. We're going to go with Michael McGreevy on this one, who gave up 1 run on 2 hits while striking out 2. Now, the one run that he did give up was a bit of a downer because it was a leadoff home run by Marlins outfielder Jacob Marcy. Marcy was a bit of a surprise last year for Miami. He hit 292, 5 home runs, 33 ribbies in just 55 games. They were super impressed from what they got from him last year. And in this game, he ends up getting a 2-1 cutter from McGreevy that didn't get in on the hands enough. I assume that that's what they were going for, is they were trying to get the cutter in on him, and it didn't get there. And Marcy ends up tattooing it over the wall in right field, 401 feet, 107.6 off the bat, gives the Fish a 1-0 lead. Funny little side note about this is after the game, according to McGreevy, the umpires apparently started the game using batting practice baseballs, which is a big no-no. He said after the game that they were using the wrong bucket of balls. There were scuffs and the balls were just messed up. We weren't using gamers for the first batter, not an excuse, but it was something to laugh about. I don't know if the balls had anything to do with the cutter that he threw. He mentioned that, some of the changeups that he threw were doing weird things when he did it, but all he really needs to do is get that ball in more. A couple of more inches inside, he probably saws him off, but ended up missing his spot, left it over the plate, and all that was left was a vapor trail over the right field wall. But like I said yesterday, when we were talking about Kyle Leahy, he gives up a home run. It's how you respond is what you want to pay attention to after that. Okay, it happened, bad. What do you do next? Do you let it bother you? Do you let it break you down mentally, or are you able to persevere and move through this? And that's what will make the difference. And McGreevy gets through it. Got the next 3 guys on a ground out, 2 flyouts to end the inning. So a good response. He didn't let it bring him down. Second inning, he gives up a leadoff single when he left an 0-1 fastball over the plate. He's lucky that one didn't go over the wall too. That ball was smoked as well, and it was right down the middle. So not great, but got away with it and only gave up a hit. But he ends up settling in. Got a strikeout on a pitch that was initially called ball 4, but Jimmy Crooks challenged it and got it reversed. The Crooks stole one there. See what I did? He followed that up by getting the next guy to pop out on an excellent sweeper that was low and away. That was beautiful. Chef's kiss there. Ends up wrapping up the inning with a strikeout to end his day. 28 pitches, 18 of them for strikes. We know McGreevy is not a big strikeout guy. Where we don't expect him to, light up the K meter all that often. But he's got to hit his spots to be successful. Kind of like Miles Michaelis had to when he was at the top of his game during the couple of all-star campaigns that Miles Michaelis had. He doesn't throw all that hard. He's got to have deceptive movement. He's got to be able to change speeds. He's got to hit his spots. He's really got to be a pitcher. He can't just throw it past people. So good response after the home run by McGreevy. No walks. You love that. McGreevy is very much somebody who's around the zone and throws a lot of strikes. So solid start to the spring. One bad pitch that really got him in trouble. Coming up next, we'll talk about the third star of today's game, which, I don't know, it's a little debatable on whether or not he should be one or not. I think he deserves it, and I'll explain to you why that is, plus which player was selected as the dark horse to make the opening day roster for the Cardinals. We'll get into it next on Locked On Cardinals. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On, the #1 sports podcast network. Third star of the game. And although he did make another error today at second base, and what we believe was a base running mistake as well, I'm going to give my third star of the game to top prospect JJ Wetherholt. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. This has more to do with his at-bats, how he looked at the plate, how he helped create some offense for a team that seems like it's going to be starving for offense here in 2026. Of course, we want to see JJ smack the hell out of the baseball. Didn't even get a hit today. Didn't get a hit. Didn't put a ball in play. How the hell does that get a star? Well, what he did on Monday is what good hitters do. He didn't chase. Didn't try to do too much. Didn't let the fact that the pitcher was kind of all over the place in both of his at-bats, didn't let it bother him. Took two very professional at-bats, which led to 2 walks instead. We don't care how he gets on base. Just get on base, right? That's what you want from some of these guys. His first at-bat, he got ball 1 on a clock violation by Perez, but 3 of the next 4 were wide, so he took his first free pass of the day, which gave Gorman and Fermine a chance to do some damage and led to the Cardinals' first run. Got on base behind Alec Burleson. Gorman wasn't able to come through. He strikes out. Fermine does, though. Boom. You get a run. We already discussed the base running error that he made, so no need to go over that again. I'm sure he'll learn from that. Second at bat, he was leading off the 4th inning facing a new pitcher. Took the first 4 pitches he saw. First 3 were balls. Second one was a strike at the bottom of the zone. Then got the green light on a 3-1 count. 5th pitch, he went hacking, and he missed a good pitch to hit over the plate. But, which can get in your head when you miss one. You're like, oh, I should have hit that one, over the facilities. But shook it off, took the 6th pitch high for his second walk of the game, which he then turned into a double, essentially, by stealing second base for his first swipe of the spring. And then eventually he scores on the bad throw during Fermine's steal attempt and ends his day without an official at bat. But he walks twice. He scores a run. He steals a base. The error was another what we're going to chalk up as a learning experience. And that's all you can do. You want to bitch and moan about errors that he's making at second base here in spring training? Or do you want to say, all right, he's learning at the major league level? Like, it wasn't like this simple play or anything like that. On Saturday, he had a similar situation where he went to field a ball up the middle, goes to his backhand, hits his heel of the glove, ends up getting an error on that one. In Monday's game, Christopher Morel, remember him from his Cubs days, hits a shot up the middle, 112 miles an hour. It's not like it was just a soft grounder that was barely going to make it out of the infield. No, this ball was smoked at 112 miles per hour off the bat. And again, JJ goes to the backhand, doesn't field it cleanly, knocks it down. But that's where the play needed to end. That's where he should have killed it and been like, got me. But instead, tries to, I don't want to say play hero, but instead of just accepting the play that it's over, tries to recover and throw the runner out at first base. That was a bad idea. He ends up throwing it low. It's offline. It gets by Burleson, who's not Paul Goldschmidt over there, trying to pick balls. And that moves the runners up to second and third. So big mistake there, obviously. And luckily, JoJo was able to get out of that. But these are the things that he's going to learn with time. He'll learn to overcome that stuff, and he'll know when he's supposed to make a throw and when he's not to. And, Ali even said after the game that he actually doesn't mind seeing it, especially this early. He says he thinks it's good to be able to see, especially when someone has had the amount of success that he's had. It's good to see some young guys face a little bit of adversity and just see how they respond to it out of the gate. You've heard Chaim Bloom talk about this stuff as well. When a kid is soaring through the minor leagues, and everything just seems to come to him so easily, you hate to have his first level of adversity happen to him in the major leagues, which can be a little defeating. We've seen it happen to Nolan Gorman. We've seen it happen to Jordan Walker. We've seen it happen to other prospects like Dylan Carlson. And, some of these guys don't overcome that. And they want to see these guys at least struggle a little bit in the minor leagues. That way they learn to fight through that, and it'll make them a better ball player when they come out of it on the other side. It's one of the things that honestly has made Mason Wynn's rise to the upper echelon of shortstops in Major League Baseball so impressive, because, Wynn is still 23. He's about to turn 24 next month. And despite having that thunderbolt for a right arm, he has already learned when it's good to go for a throw that might be tough and when to put it in his back pocket and save it for another play. Things happen so fast at the big league level that if you don't field the ball cleanly, the likelihood that you're going to throw that guy out at first base anyway is pretty slim on most runners. Like some of the slower guys, sure, you can double clutch, you can fumble around a little bit and still get these guys. But for the most part, they're going to be safe at first. And you end up doing more damage than good when you try to rush the throw and you see what happened like it did today, where it didn't end up hurting the Cardinals, which was a good thing. But you hope to avoid situations like that in the future for JJ Wetherholt. He didn't seem all that bothered by it because, later on in the game, he's doing an interview just talking about fishing, and he seemed just fine. It was relaxed and talking about getting to know Ozzie Smith and all of this stuff, and he seemed just fine. So he's one of those guys where, like, mentally, he just seems like he's got his act together, and that he's not going to hang his head and sulk after a mistake or two, that he's going to take it and learn from it and become better for it. Another learning experience that I'm sure he'll grow wiser from. That's part of the process with these younger players. It's why this year in particular with the Cardinals really going to test the patience of a lot of fans. A lot of fans expect every single play to be made. They expect every at-bat to be perfect, and it's not going to be. And you got so many young players on the field this year that there's going to be a lot of mistakes on simple plays. There's going to be brain farts where they screw up running the bases. That's going to drive us nuts, where they're throwing it to the wrong base, or they, making just dumb, errors. It's going to happen a lot this year. Ali has already talked about it, how he's like, we're excited, but we also realize that this is going to be kind of tough. It ain't going to be easy. But the hope is that all of these guys will learn from these experiences, and that's going to make this team that much better later on down the road. Some other observations from the game. Joshua Baez had a nice base hit to left field. I think I got a picture of there, Josh. Had a nice base hit to left field. Ended up, as I mentioned, stole third base, which was really cool to see. Reigning Cardinals minor league pitcher of the year, Bryson Motts, threw 2 shutout innings. He did walk 2 hitters, but was able to pitch around that, so that was good to see. Cardinals pitchers ended up walking 8 hitters in this game, which is not good. But that's all by the bullpen. And remember, later on in the game, a lot of these kids are coming in and they're from minor league camp. These aren't the guys that are going to be on the active roster. Anyway, you're just getting a look at some of these dudes, and some of these guys are pumped up. They're excited, and the adrenaline's pumping, and they're not going to throw strikes because of it. You're going to see that. So just expect it. Offensively, they were only 5 for 29 in today's game, 11 strikeouts, but they also walked 7 times, 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The team so far hitting a combined 179 in 3 games this spring, which is the second lowest average ahead of only the Detroit Tigers so far. So hopefully that turns around sooner rather than later. Again, it's early. I don't want to freak out, but you do want to see them having better at bats. But usually pitchers are ahead of the hitters at this point of spring training anyway. So it makes sense. But at the same time, you want to see some production. Let's not lie. Tomorrow's game is the first night game of the spring when they hit the road to face Washington once again. It'll be a 5:05 St. Louis time. I did not see that it's on video. Like they're not going to have a TV broadcast for it. So unless I'm wrong, I just didn't see it anywhere. So you have to listen to it on KMOX. But Andre Pallante is going to take the mound for the first time this spring. I don't have to tell you that this is probably a very big year for Andre, who had the miserable season last year. But has reportedly been very upbeat, very professional, is working on a changeup this year to add to his arsenal for 2026. So we'll see if he unleashes that tomorrow and, is able to be better than what we saw last year. Finally, we're going to wrap things up with a guy I think we'll see in the lineup on Tuesday. I don't really know, but I would assume that it's going to happen if they keep switching off the way they did. MLB writers picked one dark horse from each org to make the roster. And for the Cardinals, writer Brian Murphy, who I assume has taken over for John Denton now, he decided to go with outfielder Nelson Velázquez. And Nelson, powerful guy, had some early success in his career, but things went kind of sour. Here's what Brian Murphy wrote about him. The Cards are still hoping to add an outfielder with pop, preferably one who hits right-handed before the start of the regular season. Velázquez, who was in camp as a non-roster invitee, checks all of those boxes. Hit 25 home runs across 117 MLB games from 23 to 24 while he was with the Cubs and Royals. Wasn't in the majors last year, but he did select 30 home runs across all levels of pro ball, including 11 dingers and 51 minor league games. No Cards hitter has exceeded 22 home runs in a season since 2023. So Velázquez's power potential makes him a good fit for this roster. Like I said, he was in the lineup on Sunday. Was 1 for 2, had an infield single. He ended up scoring twice in that particular game. So off to a decent start, but he's certainly somebody that we want to watch this spring who could add some thump to the lineup, whether it's in a starting role or whether it's off the bench to go with, the more versatile guys like Fermine and Sajasi, as well as Nathan Church, who I think has a really good chance to make this team as well. So Velázquez, somebody to watch. Not earth-shattering news here. If you're an everydayer, we've been talking about Nelson Velázquez, but he's the dark horse pick from Brian Murphy. Do you have a dark horse other than Velázquez that you think might make the team? Let me know in the comments section down below. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Now, if you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. We're on TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't already, we're making that push for 14,000 subscribers. We're at 13.8 at the moment. Can we get 200 more before opening day? I think we can do it together. If you never miss an episode, a reminder that Everydayer Club built for you. Get Locked On Cardinals ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com to join the club. Use that code word SPRING. That way you get that first month free, which is nice of our people to do that for everybody. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We're going to see you next time on Locked On Cardinals on video. Heading over to the first 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network on audio. Make your second listen Locked On MLB.